Hi, everyone. This is Bruce Wolcott and Ron Austin with the Edge of Ed. Today, we are joined by a person that's working with the XR Lab, where Ron and I have been working for the past few years, who joined us last spring. His name is Deigratia Daniels. He comes with an extensive experience in virtual reality and augmented reality, and we are very happy that he's taken some time.
Super happy. We're very happy. It's really exciting to have you here. So
yeah, very exciting.
Really.
Thanks, Ron. So. Yes, we're very happy to have Degratia here. And so the interview today will be talking about his background, the work that he's done previously, how he got involved with the XR Lab, and his views in terms of where XR is going in the future as it relates to education. So to just begin, I'd like, Degratia, I'd like to introduce you officially. And could you tell us about yourself and about your background to begin with?
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Deigratia Daniels, and I am a augmented reality, virtual reality engineer and architect. I went to Florida A&M University for undergrad, where I received my engineering degree in Bachelor of Science in Engineering. And then I went to University of Central Florida and I studied interactive simulation and training systems design. It was a discipline, a specialized discipline in the engineering department at University of Central Florida. And it was basically learning how to use virtual reality and augmented reality, those tools and the techniques associated with them to create high fidelity training environments for different organizations and different cases. So I've been working in this field since grad school, and that was been since the late 90s. And I've had a long career since then, just working in this space of VR and AR and XR and MR, all these digital realities that we have nowadays. So I spent approximately 15 years working at Lockheed Martin, developing tank simulators, ship simulators, flight simulators, all sorts of different vehicles, M1A2s, tanks, M2A3s, personnel carriers, LAV-25s, light armored vehicles, F-22s, C-130, C-5, various types of aircraft. So it's really fun because not everyone gets to play in these vehicles. And that has been my office for years, just these cool places, right? I have to go out to the real C-130 and operate it in order for me to create a high fidelity simulation of it. So it's really cool that I get to play on these toys, and I won't call them toys, on these vehicles, these very advanced vehicles on a day-to-day basis. And then I replicate them at a very high level. It's been really fun. So that's a little bit about my background.
That's great, Degratia. So Ron, you had a question for Degratia. What was that?
Well, sure. Yeah. I mean, we're really fortunate that we made a connection and you're joining us at Bellevue College, which is across the country, of course, from where you live. And so can you speak a little bit about how we made the connection and about how you found out about us? And
absolutely. So great. About a year ago, probably a little bit more than a year ago, through an organization I'm involved with called Singularity University, which is an organization that is bringing a diverse group of individuals from around the world together to help look at, address, and talk about, and come up with solutions to some global issues that we have. And the way that Singularity University approaches that is through local chapters, not offices, but groups of individuals in various regions. So here in Atlanta, we didn't have a chapter. So a group of us started a Singularity University chapter in Atlanta. I think it was like March 2020 timeframe, right when the pandemic started. So it was at a point of transition for everybody. So throughout that year, I met this individual named Lila, and she was organizing a virtual meeting for Singularity University, because previously Singularity's philosophy was to meet in person. So that halted a lot of people. So there was a lot of questions. How can we do this virtually? How can we do this virtually? And I'm like, hey, I build VR worlds and I do a lot of meetings of VR. I can help out. So we started talking. She saw some of the stuff that I was doing. And then she was like, you know what? I have some folks that I also work with here, and you should meet them. So Lila set up a meeting between herself, myself, and then Bruce. And that's when we started talking about the XR Lab and some of the things that I have as far as my background and some of the visions and goals that the XR Lab has. And, there was some synergy there. So from there, we hit it off and we just hadn't stopped talking, hadn't stopped meeting. I think from our very first meeting, we've been meeting ever since, Bruce. So it's been an amazing journey. It's been a fun journey. I've learned so much and I've been able to share so much as well. So it's been a great journey, but that's kind of how we met, is through an outside organization. And again, this is what
Right.
Singularity University is working to do, is to help solve challenges, help solve problems at a local level. And that's exactly what happened. It was a partnership that sprung out of Singularity University.
Yeah, I have a question. This is going backwards a little bit, but I was just curious what type of software you were using when you were working on the tank simulations and that type of stuff on those tools.
Typically in the DoD world, they're proprietary tools, and they're classified because of the capabilities in the systems that they operate with. So, such as radar systems, those are all those parameters are classified. Defensive systems, all those items are classified, and the way formations and techniques and tactics all classified. So the things that we build, the things that we use are all custom made, built from the ground up based on requirements that I would spell out. So some of the things, the tools that we developed in-house is called Nexus, NXSYS. It stands for Next Generation System. Synthetic Environment. So there's another tool that we use called SE Core, which is Synthetic Environment Core. That was the previous version. Also, we use BioTins. I'm going to try to pull up an image and show you what some of these things look like. So the software we use is completely is completely proprietary. It's highly realistic. It's think of anything on the market that you've seen, and it's probably about 100 times more realistic than what you're seeing the consumer version. Because what we have to synthesize or simulate all the physics in the real world, the atmosphere, lighting conditions, ground, deformation of different objects, different states of objects. So, humidity, precipitation, the pressure, right? The air pressure outside. I got to simulate that. So I have controls and parameters for all these things that I have to set. So it's infinitely more complex when dealing with the DoD simulation and the virtual environment. So that it makes the things in the consumer world easier for me, because I don't have to tweak all these other parameters. I'm like, I only got to do 100 parameters. Oh, that's easy,
So this brings up another question here, Degratia, which is a project you've been working on with Raji at the XR Lab, which is software that's designed by Firefox, Mozilla Firefox, for every person on the street, not a specialist, to use. And
Right.
You've been working to create a virtual classroom together with Raji and a curriculum. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely, thank you. So as a segue into that, one of my initial objectives and goals as being a visiting scholar at the XR Lab was to help come up with a curriculum for introduction to extended reality, introduction to virtual reality, introduction to augmented reality, introduction to these things. So that was part of my first mission, and I created some modules, and it was straightforward. This is how we can build an avatar, we can go to this virtual world, we do a couple of things. So here we are a couple of months after that, almost a year after that now. Raji is now on board, and she's continuing that work, which is awesome to work with. So she's coming in as a potential user of the content that was created earlier, and she's taking it from me, someone who's been in this world for a decade or two, and she's crafting it to work with the faculty, taking this content and to use it as a potential end user. So she's crafting it to be an instructor so she can teach it and give it to other instructors so they can use for templates. A couple of metas, couple of embedded loops in that. So what I'm doing with this particular effort with Raji is she's taking our content and just tweaking it, and she's asking for customization. So as opposed to bog her down with getting into the technical aspects of building these worlds, we're partnering together as me being the expert of building these worlds, and then Raji being the visionary as to constructing the curriculum on how it's going to work. So we found ourselves, we've been working with about a month now, a little bit over a month we've been working together and building these curriculums and these worlds. And it's turning out really well. She likes what's coming out, and we're looking forward to getting some feedback on how these worlds, how these modules work in the real world.
So we're just starting to work with students. They're just actually, I sent a link to the initial world that you and Raji worked on, a copy of it, not the original one, for students to work with as they begin creating environments, teaching environments for instructors. And so it's already being put to work. It's marvelous stuff that you've done with Raji Degratia. And so that's terrific what's been happening at Bellevue College and through the XR lab, and that collaboration with the Bellevue College instructor with the industry expert has been just fabulous. Ron, did you have any other questions for Degratia? Maybe
no, just I had a chance to look at it yesterday. Raji was showing me it, and just how you've set up all the media frames, which you can do in Mozilla Hubs, so faculty can easily add things. I think that's part of the whole, I don't know, issue with the higher education, is that we have to have things very simple for faculty to use, but at the same time, what you're doing is also innovative and really cool. And so that's exciting to see. I don't know if any other college in Washington State is doing this.
Yeah, well, this type of relationship between an industry expert and a faculty member who's developing curriculum is something that's new for us, and I believe for other schools in the state as well. So as we're wrapping up here, Degratia, you've been in the industry for a long time. You've worked on simulations, training simulations, educational applications for augmented reality, which we haven't talked about, and immersive virtual reality environments. Could you summarize where you see this stuff going and where you think it will fit into the educational picture in the next, I don't know, 10 years maybe from now, 5 to 10 years?
So that's a really interesting question, and I'm going to answer it from a couple of different vectors. I specifically have been using these technologies to create training environments. I won't call it education. I consider that something different, but I've been using it for training. And it has a long and rich history in being applied for training. And it really works well for that, because the way we as humans learn things is by doing things and repeating them. So these technologies allow the trainers or whoever's providing the training to reduce costs and reduce waste. So I'm using a flight simulator as opposed to a real aircraft. That means I'm not spending any fuel, any reusables like, lubricants and, burning out equipment that is needed on the aircraft, which only has so many, hours of use, especially when it comes to airframes. I'm able to use this flight simulator, which allows me to save all that expensive cost as, using a real life aircraft. So it's been a cost saver. It's always advertised as a cost saver, and has been advertised as a way to help retain information faster and for longer periods of time. So I say that part about training. Now you ask about education, and when I use the term education, I just want to kind of define it and put a box around it. I'm thinking of pre-K through 12, elementary school, high school, middle school, college, universities, all of those academia areas. So I do see it being new to that particular area when it comes to education, providing education like a curriculum, like mathematics. As you saw, I created this. We'll insert an image here as the number jungle that I created for my son that I use for education. But to go back, trying to use these tools and techniques for education is a new field. And as someone who's applied it in training, which is slightly different in education, I've been able to pull out some curriculum, some tools, some techniques, and some thoughts, and some ideas. I don't have a master plan, but I got some thoughts about how to go about it, and applying it with 5-year-olds. None of this technology is designed to work with a 5-year-old, period. These headsets don't even fit on the kids' heads right now. So I got to do all these things to modify it just to get it to work with kids, right? Some kids can't even read, right? The controllers, they don't even fit their hands right now, right? They're only built for adults. Facebook, if you're 13 or younger, you can't even use the stuff, right? So those are some of the barriers and challenges that we have to overcome just by trying to use it in education. None of the technology is built for kids. So we already exclude a portion of the population. We'll see it start to adapt for a more diverse group of people.
Okay. Any concluding remarks, Degratia, and then we'll close the session for today. Any questions from you, Ron?
Any questions from me? No, just we're really fortunate to have met you, and it's awesome working with you. I really love the energy you bring to the lab. So
I have to say that too, Degratia, and the nature of this relationship that we've set up with you coming in as a visiting scholar and having the benefits of your knowledge and expertise and being so communicative and so willing to collaborate and work with us, I think has just been really terrific. So I'm really glad you're at the XR Lab, and I hope you'll continue with us.
Absolutely, and just to reverberate off of what you two just said, it has been an amazing journey for me. I've been able to share my experience and just help the team, which is one of my goals is just to help communities, help individuals overcome some of the barriers that we have entering into these new spaces. And I want to be there to support. And I've also learned a lot of new things. Like, I didn't know about Mozilla Hubs until you mentioned it to me. So, and then I dove into it. I'm like, oh, this is really cool. So all the things that I've learned with it comes from being a partner, being involved with the XR Lab. I've learned, Mozilla Hubs. You were telling me about Writer the other day and some of the stuff you were showing me. So Bruce, you bring a lot to the table, and the XR Lab brings a lot to the table. We have David and Larry and Ron and everyone, Leslie, all across the team who have introduced me to so many new things, and it's just in a learning environment as well as an environment that allows me to share what I know. So I've had fun. That's my motto. We're gonna have fun doing this.
All right, Bruce, let's bring up the music.
Okay. Thanks everyone for joining us again, and thanks to you, Degratia, for being our willing guest today. And we'll see you soon. We'll be back in probably 2 or 3 weeks.